We are now streaming live on YouTube. This is the preliminary hearing of Mr. Maurice Hogbook, charged in warrant number 2024 WA-03456, representing the state is Solicitor Brooks, representing the defendant is Attorney Lane. Your witness. Brooks.
Thank you, Your Honor. Deputy Weems, if you would, raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm testimony about to give in the matter now pending before the court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. State your name for the record.
Dexter L. Weems.
And how are you employed?
Hold on, I'm sorry, Ms. Thompson. Okay, go ahead.
How are you employed, sir?
With the Clayton County Sheriff's Office.
And just for clarity's sake, state your name one more time.
Deputy Dexter L. Weems.
And with the Clayton County Sheriff's Office, are you assigned to a particular division or unit?
TAC Patrol, yes, sir.
Back in April of this year, April 16th of 2024, what unit were you assigned to?
The same unit, TAC Patrol.
Does some of your duties and responsibilities require you to assist in the jail or assist with offenses that may occur in the jail?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is the Clayton County Jail located in Clayton County, Georgia?
Yes, sir.
On that day, did you have an encounter in which you investigated an incident that involved the Maurice Hogbook?
Yes, sir, I did.
How did that come about?
It was reported over my county issued radio that a fight was happening inside the dorms where Mr. Hogbook and the other gentlemen's at the time was happening.
Now, when you say the dorms, where are the dorms located?
As you're walking down the hall, they would be the first intersection on the left-hand side of the dorms.
More specifically, what building is that?
The Clayton County Jail.
Okay. And after learning that there was a fight occurring within dorms, what did you do?
I responded. At that time I was posted inside the security camera room in Central Control, where I can visually look at all the cameras inside the jail that's going down. And it was approximately around about 21:40 hours where the fight had occurred with Mr. Hogbook and the other inmates. And at that time, I rewinded the tapes back to see what was going on with the fight, who was all involved, so we can get a clarity of the picture. Because the initial officer that called it out over the radio, he was kind of confused about who was in what type of altercation that was going down. So I rewinded the camera back and I noticed Mr. Hogbook was one of the inmates that was involved into the fight that was going down inside the dorms.
Now, a fight inside the jail, is that an act of violence inside of the jail?
That is correct.
And do you recall, or were you who he was fighting with?
I'm sorry, your connection broke up.
I'm sorry, were you able to identify who Mr. Hogbook was fighting with?
Yes, Mr. Hogbook was Mr. Glover.
And Mr. Glover was another inmate within the jail?
That is correct.
Okay. The action that you saw specifically of Mr. Hogbook, what did you see specifically?
Mr. Hogbook was the second initial fighter inside the altercation. As I'm gonna just give his side of the story. Pretty much I'm gonna skip the first inmate side. When he approached Mr. Glover at the time, he approached Mr. Glover with a fighting stance. I exactly don't know the full details on the situation, what they was arguing about for them to get in the altercation, because we don't have audio on our camera footage. But what I was told was that I guess Mr. Glover was being too loud inside the dorms at the time, and they was trying to sleep and get some rest. So when he approached Mr. Glover, he approached him at a fighting stance, and then Mr. Hogbook laid hands. He kind of shoved Mr. Glover with his hands, with the open palm hands to the top of his chest. And that gave Mr. Glover an off balance motion where he almost fell and hit the ground. And at that time, Mr. Glover came back and he swung at the other fighter number one. He swung at him. And as Mr. Glover had swung at him, both inmates had end up on top of Mr. Glover, pounding and welling on Mr. Glover at the same time.
And when you said both inmates, one of those inmates was Mr. Hogbook?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. No additional questions at this time.
All righty. Go ahead, Mr. Lane.
Morning, officer.
Good morning, sir.
How far back did you go when you were reviewing the jail video? How much footage did you get a chance to look at? How many minutes or seconds was it?
I can't recall an exact time frame. How long did it probably happen? But I can say the altercation probably lasted over maybe 4 minutes.
Okay. And then would you say then that you just probably watched about 4 minutes of video, or did you rewind it further back to see what was occurring before the incident or altercation broke out?
I rewind it back before the altercation had broke out.
How far back did you go? How many minutes did you go back?
I could probably say about maybe a good 2 minutes backwards.
Okay, two minutes prior.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we don't really have any idea what was going on 10 minutes before the altercation broke out.
I don't exactly know of that situation. No, sir. I don't have any audio again on the video cameras. We just have footage.
And that was going to be my next question. So we don't even know what was being said at any point during the video.
Correct.
Did you have a chance, this Glover Edric, the inmate, the alleged victim here, does he have a history of being disciplined there in the jail?
Mr. Glover or Mr. Hogbook?
The Glover Edric, I believe I've got his name right.
What was your question referring to, Mr. Glover again?
Just his disciplinary history there in the jail. Has he been troublemaker?
That was my first encounter with Mr. Glover, so I can't recall on Mr. Glover on that side.
Okay. And as far as was any medical assistance? Were any of them treated for any injuries?
Yes, sir. At that time, Mr. Glover felt like his jaw was swollen and he was taken down to medical. And then I want to say probably it took about a month later for him to get assistance to actually go to the hospital, and it determines that his jaw was actually broken.
Okay. And then you did take written statements from all 4 inmates?
Yes, I believe. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, thank you, officer. I don't have any further questions.
All right, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All righty, closing arguments? Attorney Brooks?
Yes, ma'am. The state believes there's been sufficient evidence for this case to actually be bound over to Superior Court. The officer's testimony lays out a factual basis supporting OCGA 161056, which is unlawful acts of violence in a penal institution. No person legally confined to a penal institution shall commit an unlawful act of violence or any other act in a violent or tumultuous manner in a penal institution. The statute further defines a penal institution as any place of confinement for persons accused of or convicted of violating the laws of this state or ordinances of municipality or political subdivision of this state. Further, the officer's latter testimony just moments ago suggested that the joint act of committing violence against Mr. Glover actually resulted in him having a broke jaw, which would be an aggravated battery which also would be another basis for it to be transferred to Superior Court. The initial warrant was for simple assault, but the facts that the officer testified to suggest that this is far more than a simple assault. So it states asking that the case be bound over to Superior Court for both aggravated battery as well as violation, unlawful acts of violence in a penal institution. That's 16-1056.
Because he only has one warrant, right?
Initially, he was charged with 2 charges. I think the first charge was dismissed, and that was participation in criminal gang activity. The second charge is simple assault, yes, ma'am, and that's the misdemeanor warrant that put him on this calendar.
Okay, so we have to get the logistics on this because we got to get another warrant drawn out. Okay, all right. So on these two, for these charges, I'm going to upgrade the simple assault to aggravated battery. I'm going to bind that over, and that's warrant number 2024 WA 03456. And so, but we're going to have the officer swear in another one so that we'll have a case number for it. All right, so at this point, both charges will be bound over to the Superior Court of Clayton County. That's the order of the court.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to make sure I heard you right, Your Honor, you want me to take out another charge of aggravated battery on?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. And then you have to let us know what that case number is, that warrant number.
Yes,
Once you
ma'am.
do that, and I'll bind that over to Superior Court. Wait a minute. So Attorney Brooks, wait. Who y'all got broken?
The victim of the charge
Okay.
was Mr. Glover. His name is
I just want to make sure I understood that right. Okay.
yes, Glover Edric or Edrich. It's Edrich, Edrich. First name Glover, Glover.
So he's going to add the aggravated assault. I'm going to, okay, 16-1056. All right, who do we have next?
Your Honor, I believe going back, that was Officer Reynolds. That's on Kyra Brooks.
Am I clear to exit, Your Honor?
I'm sorry?
Am I clear to exit?
Yes, thank you.
No problem, ma'am.
All
Yeah.
right, so Kyra Brooks is what we want to do next?
Officer Reynolds, can you hear me? We cannot hear you. I see you talking, but we can't hear you. Let's see, is your Zoom connected to the computer audio?
They need to speak with him.
Your Honor, you can unmute Officer Reynolds. She's just muted.
Say something, Officer Reynolds, Detective Reynolds. Say something. We still can't hear.
All right, who can we do next while she's trying to figure that out?
Officer Parker. Ian Parker. Officer Parker, are you on? That's for Robert Brown. Officer Parker was on earlier. Okay, let's keep going. Officer Amador. Officer Amador. Officer Amador on Campbell. Okay. I see both of them on, but I'm not sure what's happening when they can't hear me or respond. Let's see. Officer Warren. Brandon Warren.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, that's Timothy King, Your Honor.
Mr. King. Mhm. All right, can we get Mr. Timothy King, deputy?
And Judge, that would be one we'd need to be appointed on.
Okay,
Timothy King, Your Honor.
Timothy King, yes. And so Attorney Lane, are you gonna write these appointment orders up?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Do it, go ahead and get one for King.
All right.
Mr. King is present.
All right. Now calling the matter of State of Georgia versus Timothy King. This is his preliminary hearing. Warrant number 2024 WA 77741. That's driving on suspended license. Warrant number 2024 WA 77742. No insurance. 2024 WA 77743. Concealing of a tag. And 2024 WA 77748. Driving a motor vehicle with canceled registration. Representing the state is Solicitor Brooks. Representing the defendant is Attorney Lane. Your witness, Solicitor Brooks.
Thank you, Your Honor. Deputy Warren, can you hear me? Brandon Warren? Deputy Warren?
Yes, sir. I'm trying to
Okay.
work this down.
All right, if you would raise your right hand. Do you swear firm testimony about giving the matter not pending before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
All right, tell us what's your name and employment.
Lieutenant B. Warren. I'm employed with the Clayton County Sheriff Office.
And Lieutenant Warren, on May the 29th of 2024, were you employed in the same capacity?
Yes, sir.
On that day, did you have to be doing traffic enforcement within the county in the area of Jonesboro Road and Conley Road?
Yes, sir.
On that day, did you encounter an individual by the name of Timothy Dwayne King?
Yes, sir.
Recount for the court the facts that supported charges that are on the calendar.
On May 29th, approximately 7:12 p.m., I observed four folks was traveling on Conley Road, on Jonesboro Road, near Conley Road. The vehicle had a tinted tag cover, making it hard to read the tag. After reviewing the tag and getting behind the vehicle, I was able to see that the vehicle was displaying what appeared to be a Georgia temporary tag. After further review, I seen many inconsistencies with the tag that that made me believe the tag was fake. I ran the tag number that was associated with it. I ran the tag number that was on the tag. I didn't get a return back. I conducted a traffic stop on Conley Road near Jonesboro Road. Upon making contact with the defendant, Mr. King, He was only able to provide a printed copy of his identification card. Was able to run his name and date of birth through GCIC and CIC. Observed that he did not have a license, and he had several warrants for his arrest.
Why didn't he have a license? Was it suspended or was it no license?
He was suspended.
Do you recall why?
No, I can't remember why.
Okay. On GCIC, does it reflect any failure to appears?
Yes, sir. He had a failure to appear, I believe, August 23rd, 2019.
Okay. And after learning this, what did you do next?
I had another deputy respond to the scene. Once that deputy arrived on the scene, I took Mr. King in custody. I was able to run the VIN number on the vehicle through GCIC and CIC. I also observed that the registration was canceled and the vehicle did not have insurance.
Okay. That area that you initiated a stop at Jonesboro Road and Conley Road, is that here in Clayton County?
Where I observed the traffic infraction is in Clayton County. Where the traffic stop was conducted was right outside of Clayton County.
Okay. So what you initially, when you observed him operating the motor vehicle, was that within Clayton County?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No additional questions at this time, yeah.
All right, Attorney Lane.
Hey, good morning, officer.
Good morning.
You said that you were noticed the temporary tag and you determined that it was fraudulent.
Yes, sir.
And what I guess you just observed that the tag was not being consistent with a real Georgia temporary tag. What was making you come to that conclusion before you conducted the traffic stop?
On Georgia temporary tags, they have a circle gold decal and it reflects that tag. It didn't have that circle decal on it, and the fun of the tag.
Do you think it was because of the tint that was over it why you weren't able to see that, or did it not have it on there?
Well, Mr. King later advised that he purchased the tag from a person online.
Okay. And whenever you do get let's say you do actually get a real Georgia temporary tag, is that automatically registered into the GCIC, NCIC database just like a normal tag would be, or is it registered separately?
So either if it's a used dealership or a new dealership, or even with the state of Georgia, as soon as they issue they call it a temporary operating permit, it registers into GCIC and it'll show who's the registered owner, what vehicle is for. This case, when I ran the tag, nothing came back.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, officer. I don't have any further questions.
Any redirect?
Nothing from state, y'all.
All right, closing arguments.
State to submit on the evidence, y'all.
All right, go to Attorney Lane.
Your Honor, the defense would submit the testimony.
All right. All 4 charges will be bound over to the State Court of Clayton County. That's the order of the court.
Thank you.
What do we have next?
That will be. Did Officer Parker make it back on? Ian Parker? Okay, Ian Parker's not back on. Officer Kurtz.
Excuse me, Your Honor. Can I be excused?
Yes, thank you.
Officer Kurtz, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, that's Lochman.
That on as Lochman.
Yes, sir.
One second. 1 second. I'll bring him up.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I believe Detective Reynolds is trying to be admitted again.
Let's see. I don't see him trying to get in.
Mr. Lochman is
I have it. I got it. There we are. Is this Mr. Alnus Lochman? That is, okay. All right, now calling the matter of State of Georgia versus Alnus Lochman, warrant number 2024 WA 04222. Attorney Brooks, your witness.
Yes, ma'am. Officer Kurtz, if you would, raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony about giving the matter now been before the court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please state your name and employment for the record.
Officer Eric Kurtz with the Lake City Police Department.
And on May 24th of 2024, were you employed in the same capacity?
Yes.
Is it part of your duties and responsibilities to respond to general call-outs to 911?
Yes.
On that day, did you respond to what's known as the Lake City store at 2111 Trammell Road within Lake City?
Yes, I did.
Is that located in Clayton County?
Yes, it is.
Recount for the court who you encountered and where did that lead?
Actually, we encountered Mr. Lochman 3 times that within a 2-hour period.
Wow.
There's a property behind that one. It's 2123 Rex Road. Originally, the call went out at 2:28 a.m. and they had spotted him on cameras and called anonymously to Clayton County Dispatch. I later made a second patrol to check the 2 adjoining properties at 303, and Mr. Lochman had returned to the property after being asked to leave, and again at 0404 hours.
To be clear, both of those properties, what is that? Is that a retail store, or a public space?
Actually, it's a store, and in the back is a church.
Okay, and the store and churches at the time that he was observed, was it open to the public?
No, it was not.
What? And I think you said that was at 3 in the morning.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you able to make contact with Mr. Lochman?
Yes, all 3 times.
And when you made contact with him, did he give you a reason that allayed any concerns for him being on the property at that time?
At the time, he said he was just lives with his mother on Addicts Boulevard, which is just outside our city limits, and that he did not want to return to his home because he was having issues with his mother.
And did he give any legitimate reason for, I guess, being on that property as to anywhere else?
No, he did not.
Okay. The property itself, you say at that time it was closed to the public.
Yes.
Okay. After speaking with Mr. Lochman, what did you do?
The first 2 times we asked him to leave. The 3rd time I placed him under arrest.
So you gave him two chances to leave, and on the 3rd time you placed him under arrest.
That is correct.
And what'd you arrest him for?
Loitering and prowling.
No additional questions at this time.
All right, Attorney Lane.
Good morning, officer.
Good morning.
When you were speaking with Mr. Lochman, did it seem like he was mentally stable?
I actually asked him if he had any mental issues, and he stated he did not.
Okay, and just based on your conversations with him, do you agree with that?
Yes, he didn't seem to be intoxicated or having any mental issues at the time.
Okay, so you believe then he was able to understand your commands?
Yes, he actually left the property the first time. He walked away toward Addicts Boulevard, which is like I said, just outside the city limits and where he claimed his mother lived. And then he returned.
All right, thank you, officer. I don't have any further questions.
All right, closing arguments.
The state submit on the evidence, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead, Attorney Lane.
Your Honor, we just submit as well the testimony.
Mhm. All right, based upon the evidence presented, I do find that there's sufficient probable cause to bind this charge over to the state court of Clayton County. That's the order of the court. And who would we be doing next?
I'll be dismissed.
I believe Officer Parker is on, and I believe Officer Parker has 2 cases. Let's double check. Robert Brown.
I'll bring him up. One moment.
Can I be dismissed?
Yes, thank you.
Your Honor, Robert Brown is present.
Officer Rabb, can you hear me? Officer Rabb.
I'll be here. I'll be here for Officer Rabb.
Okay.
We're doing Mr. Brown. Did I hear right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now calling the matter of State of Georgia versus Robert Brown, charged in warrant number 2024 WA 04308, criminal trespass. Attorney, Solicitor Brooks, your witness.
Thank you. Officer Parker, if you would, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm testimony about to give the matter not pending before the court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Please tell us what's your name and what's your employment.
Officer N. Parker, Atlanta Police Department.
And are you assigned to a particular unit of the police department?
I do patrol at the Hartsfield-Jackson Domestic Airport.
Okay, is that airport located here in Clayton County?
Yes, sir.
On May 30th of 2024, were you employed in the same capacity?
Yes, sir.
Specifically, the area of the atrium, 6234 Spine Road, is that area located in Clayton County?
Yes, sir.
On that day, did you encounter an individual you were able to identify as Robert Brown?
Yes, sir.
How did you come to encounter Mr. Brown, and ultimately, why was he placed under arrest?
Myself and Officer Rabb, we patrol the atrium daily, at least 5 to 6 days a week. On that particular day, he was in the atrium, panhandling passengers for food, money, or whatever he can get. Upon like when we engaged him, of course, he said, he didn't have a ticket or he wasn't flying out, he wasn't working. We escort him back to the precinct and find that, he does have a active or valid criminal trespassing warning. And at that point,
that criminal trespass warning that was previously issued, was it issued on November the 8th of 2023?
Yes.
And those criminal trespass warnings, they advise not to be on the airport without legitimate business?
Yes.
And what's the duration of those warnings?
Generally, depending on how they act, it could go a year, sometimes 2 years.
Okay. And from the time that criminal trespass warning was issued until the time that you encountered him on May 30th, 2024, was the prior warning in place still?
Yes.
Okay. When you spoke with Mr. Brown and learned of his reason for being there, ultimately, what'd you do?
At that point, we just take them back to the precinct and, we decipher whether or not they have a valid one.
Okay, and did Mr. Brown have a legitimate reason for being at the airport at the time that you encountered him?
No.
Was he placed on arrest for criminal trespass?
Yes.
No additional questions at this time.
All right, Attorney Lane.
Good morning, officer.
How you doing?
Hey, pretty good. So when you were speaking with Mr. Brown, did it seem like he was able to understand your questions?
Yes.
Like, did it seem like he was lucid and mentally he was all there and was able to communicate with you?
Yes.
Understand your commands?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, officer. I don't have any further questions.
All right, closing arguments.
Stand submit all the evidence, Your Honor.
Attorney Lane.
And defense would submit as well, Your Honor.
All righty. Case number 2024 WA04308 will be transferred to the State Court of Clayton County. That's the order of the court. And who will we be doing next?
One moment, Your Honor. Officer Faulkner. Is Officer Faulkner on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, status rating on Eugene Mahome.
All right, Deputy, if you could get Eugene Mahome.
No problem, Your Honor. Coming right up. Mr. Mahone is present, John.
All right, now calling the matter of State of Georgia versus Eugene Mahome. This is his preliminary hearing. Warrant number 2024 WA04318, battery family violence. Your witness attorney, Solicitor Brooks.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer Faulkner, if you will, raise your right hand. Do you swear firm testimony about giving the matter not pending before the court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, tell us what's your name and employment. I think your connection might be unstable. Can you repeat that one more time for us?
Morrow Police Department, assigned to Uniform Division.
Gotcha. And on May 30th of 2024, were you assigned in the same capacity?
That's correct.
On that date, did you
Yes,
respond to a incident located at 6487 York Road in the city of Morrow?
Yes, I did.
That location within the city of Morrow, is that here in Clayton County?
Yes, it did.
During the course of responding to that incident, did you have when you got to the location, did you encounter a Eugene Mahome Jr.?
No, I did not, sir. He had already left prior to my arrival.
And so when you what kind of call were you responding to?
Came out as domestic.
It was a domestic call. And when you got there, what did you find?
Yes, sir.
When you
I
got,
apologize.
no worries. When you got to the location, what did you find? Who did you encounter, and what did you learn during the course of your investigation?
I encountered Eugene Mahome Sr.
And was Mr. Mahone Sr., was he the complainant? Meaning the person who called 911? Did we lose Officer Faulkner? Officer Faulkner? Officer Faulkner?
Yeah, I think we lost him.
Chief Henderson, if you can give him a call, just see if he's able to log back on.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Brooks, Officer Faulkner advised he's got a very poor signal and he's getting to a place where he can log back in. He's working on that right now.
Yes, sir. Your Honor, should we just stand by?
Yes, let's just stand by.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We'll hold for the court.
I apologize for that.
No worries.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, when you arrived on at the location, I think you said you encountered a Eugene Mahone Sr.
That's correct. It's a father.
Okay, and what did you learn from Mr. Mahone? Was he the complainant or the person who called 911?
Yes, sir. He was the person to call 911. He learned that he was the victim at that time. I immediately noticed that he had a bruised left eye. I asked him what had happened. He stated that his son struck him in the eye with his fist, left eye.
Who did he identify as his son?
Eugene Mahome.
Okay. And you said that one more time?
Eugene Mahome Jr.
And were you able to identify Mr. Mahone Jr. on scene?
I was not. He stated that when he made the 911 call, his son abruptly left, walking.
Okay. Were you able to make contact with Mr. Mahone Jr. after, not on scene, but after the scene, after arriving on scene?
We patrolled the area before making contact with Eugene Mahone Jr. Other officers arrived, patrolling the area. A short time later, Eugene Mahone Jr. was located walking 75 north, just north of the northbound on-ramp.
And were you able to speak with them regarding the incident at that time?
Major Woodall and Sergeant Hamlin initially made contact with him to tame him. While obtaining information from Mahone Sr., it was learned that Eugene Mahone Jr. had an outstanding warrant for his arrest. I do not recall the agency had the warrant out for him.
Okay. All right. No additional questions at this time.
All right, Attorney Lane.
Good morning, officer.
Good morning.
When you were speaking with Mr. Mahone Sr., when you came out onto the scene, did you notice any that he was intoxicated?
No, I do not recall that.
Okay. Did you smell any marijuana?
I did not.
Alcohol?
No, sir. I don't recall smelling any alcohol.
Bloodshot eyes?
Only the one that was hit.
And were there any other witnesses out there at the scene?
No, sir. Not to my recollection. There was not any other witnesses on the scene.
Okay. Did you review any kind of video of the incident?
No, sir. There was no video, to my knowledge, really available of the incident.
Okay. And did you ever get a chance then to have contact with Mr. Mahone Jr.?
I did. Mahone Jr. was later transported to the City of Morrow Police Department by Sergeant Hamlin after obtaining information from Eugene Mahone Jr. As to what happened, pertinent information to the incident report. I then later went to the Morrow Police Department where warrant affidavit was signed for his arrest, and he was later transported to the Clayton County Jail and booked on said charges.
Did anybody ever examine Mr. Mahone Jr.'s fists to see if there were any injuries on there?
Mr. Mahone Jr. had a cut to his wrist. I asked him what had happened, but Mahone Jr. was not very cooperative. My recollection, he didn't really remember what had happened. So I can't testify as to what happened to his wrist.
Okay, but his knuckles weren't bloody or swollen like he'd punched somebody?
I do not remember that, no, sir.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
All right. Any redirect, Attorney Brooks?
None from State, Your Honor.
All right. Closing arguments, Attorney Brooks?
State will submit on the evidence, Your Honor.
All right.
Your Honor, defense would submit as well.
All righty. So the charge of battery family violence will be transferred over to State Court of Clayton County. That's the order of the court. All right. Who we have next?
And Officer Broughton here. Am I excused?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Officer Williams, Neil Williams. Officer Williams, Neil Williams.
Can you hear me?
We can. Your Honor, that's Christopher Scott.
Yes, sir. I hit my video, but it's not. Oh, wait. Oh, okay.
Deputy, if you could get Christopher Scott.
Sorry, the internet went out. Can you repeat the last name?
Scott, Christopher Scott.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Scott is present, Your Honor.
All right, now calling the matter of State of Georgia versus Christopher Scott, charged in warrant number 2024 WA 04050 battery and 2024 WA 04051, another count of battery. Representing the state of Solicitor Brooks, representing the defendant's Attorney Lane, your witness, Solicitor Brooks.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer Williams, if you will, raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony about giving the man nothing before the court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Tell us what's your name and employment.
I'm going to be Officer Neil Williams Jr., employed with the Riverdale Police Department located in Clayton County, Georgia.
And on May 15, 2024, were you employed in the same capacity?
Yes, sir.
On that day, do you recall being dispatched to a 6603 Church Street apartment complex regarding a domestic dispute?
Yes, sir, I do.
Would you recount for the court what happened when you got to that location? Who were you able to identify, and ultimately who you placed under arrest?
Yes, sir. So upon my arrival, the call came out as a domestic dispute. Let's start there. So upon my arrival, walking up to the apartment, I could hear what appeared to be people yelling or screaming. Shortly after, I met a male subject. He greeted me at the entranceway of the apartment, which at that time he seemed very disoriented, sweating, and on his right side of his face, I did notice lacerations, and also on the neck, I did notice laceration. I tried to attend to the matter. I asked the male subject what happened. The first time he stated nothing. I asked again the second time, he stated he fell, which at this time one of my partners arrived to sit and talk with him. I then proceeded to make my way to the apartment, building F, apartment 8, to meet with the complainant, which at this time I met with a female subject, last name Joyce, which at this time Ms. Joyce stated, Ms. Joyce identified the male subject to be Mr. Scott, and she did identify, she did state that her and Mr. Scott do live together and they do have kids together. She stated that verbal and physical altercation started amongst her, Mr. Scott, and another female subject who was later identified to be Miss Brown. She stated that the altercation, the verbal altercation and the physical altercation started because she stated to Mr. Scott that she did not feel safe staying there with him. And she also stated to him that her cousins will be staying the night, which at this time, she stated this upset Mr. Scott, and they got into a verbal altercation. Neighbors next door heard and came over, and Mr. Scott began to become very violent and striking the female later identified as Miss Brown.
Miss Brown was the neighbor?
Correct. Yes, sir. That lived in, I believe that's apartment 9, just directly across the hall. Ms. Joyce stated they got into a verbal altercation, which at this time, Ms. Joyce and other parties tried to separate them. Ms. Joyce stated once they tried to separate Mr. Scott and Miss Brown, Mr. Scott turned and started to swing on everybody else and struck Ms. Joyce. I later talked to Ms. Brown. Ms. Brown stated that Mr. Scott pushed her to the ground, hit her a couple times, and once on the ground, hit her some more.
Did you see
after the conclusion of my investigation?
Did you see physical injuries on? Did you see physical injuries on Ms. Brown?
I didn't see no physical injuries on Ms. Brown at the time, no, sir.
But you say you observed lacerations on Ms. Scott. I mean, Miss Joyce?
Mr. Scott. No, Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott did have lacerations on the right side of his face, small lacerations, and then small lacerations on the neck. When I asked both parties about that, they both stated that came from them trying to break up the fight and get Mr. Scott off of Miss Brown.
Okay, so to be clear, of Miss Joyce and Miss Brown, did you observe any physical manifestations of the altercation on either of the two?
On Miss Brown, no. Miss Scott, she is lighter complexion. She
No, when you
did
say Miss
have.
Scott, are you talking about Miss Joyce?
I mean, sorry, Miss Joyce. I'm sorry, Miss Joyce is lighter complexion. She was red around the arms, but that was about it. I didn't see any lacerations or any swelling or anything of that nature. Just redness around the arms.
Okay. After learning what you learned during the course of the investigation, what did you do?
After learning that Mr. Scott was detained, he was told that he was being detained and not under arrest. He was then checked for any contraband, and then he was placed in the rear of my vehicle until completion of investigation.
And did you have an opportunity to speak to Mr. Scott regarding what was learned through Ms. Joyce and Ms. Brown?
Correct. Mr. Scott stated nothing happened. It was verbal. It was all verbal.
After speaking to both Mr. Scott, Ms. Brown, and Ms. Joyce, what did you do next?
Witness statements were collected. I spoke with my supervisor, and the conclusion was Mr. Brown was charged with battery on Mr. Brown. Mr. Scott was charged with battery for striking Miss Brown, and then he was also charged with battery family violence for striking Miss Joyce.
Okay. All right. And this incident occurred at an apartment within Riverdale. That apartment itself, is it within Clayton County?
Yes, sir. Located in Riverdale. Yes, sir.
Okay. No additional questions at this time here.
All right, across.
Good morning, Officer Williams. I have a few questions for you as well.
Yes, ma'am.
You did say that you didn't view any injuries on Miss Joyce.
Miss Joyce, no serious injuries. She, like I stated, she did have redness of the arms, but no lacerations, no lumps, no bleeding, nothing of that nature.
Did you see any injuries on Miss Brown?
No, ma'am.
But you did see injuries on Mr. Scott?
Mr. Scott, yes, ma'am.
Did you observe his fists or anything to see if he had any lacerations that would indicate that, according to the report, that he punched or threw them down?
No, ma'am. I don't recall if I did. No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Any redirect?
None from Senior.
All right, closing arguments. Solicitor Brooks.
Your Honor, the factual basis laid out by the officer, the state believes supports the charge of battery family violence as related to Miss Joyce. The officer testified that the physical manifestations of the injuries on Miss Joyce was redness to her arm. He advised that Miss Joyce did advise that her and Mr. Scott does live together, and do have a child together. As it relates to the second count, battery, the state believes that the factual basis laid out by the officer does not support the charge, but rather supports the charge of simple battery as opposed to battery against Miss Brown. The officer said he did not observe any physical manifestations of the injuries on Miss Brown, but that there was testimony enough for him to secure an arrest warrant, or we'll do a warrantless affidavit for striking Miss Brown, though not leaving any injuries. And so they would be asking that the court bind over both charges. However, that the second charge be reduced to simple battery as opposed to battery.
All right.
And the defense rests on submit the testimony.
Okay, all right, thank you. So both charges will be bound over. Charge 051 will be downgraded to a simple battery. All right, that's the order of the court. What do we have next?
Your Honor, may I be excused?
Yes, thank you.
Man.
Officer Williams has not appeared. Q Williams. Keep going. Officer Norris. Officer Norris. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. That would be Tashiba Taylor, Your Honor.
Deputy, if you could get Taylor, please.
I'm getting her right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Taylor is present, Your Honor.
All right, now calling the matter of State of Georgia versus Tashiba Taylor in warrants number 2024 CW 71438 71, which is simple battery. 2024 CW 71439 terroristic threats. 2024 WA 04317 criminal trespass. No, I'm sorry, it's just battery and the terroristic threats. Representing the state is Solicitor Brooks. Representing the defendant is Attorney Ms. Evans, Attorney Evans. Your witness, Solicitor Brooks.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer Norris, if you would raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm testimony about to give in the matter not pending before the court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Tell us what's your name and employment.
I'm Officer Christopher Norris with Clayton County Police Department.
Back in May of this year, May 11th of 2024, were you assisting Officer Davian Duncan on a call?
Yes, I was his field training officer at the time.
And that call was a domestic disturbance call?
It was originally dispatched as that, yes.
Okay. Were you dispatched to 8604 Regent Street, Jonesboro, Georgia?
Yes.
Is that here in Clayton County?
It is.
When you arrived on scene, did you encounter a person by the name of Yana Burston?
I did.
How did you identify Miss Burston? Who was she to the call?
She was the complainant.
And when you spoke with Miss Burston, what did she advise you the reason for her call?
Her story kind of changed up a few times, but overall it was that Miss Taylor came to the house, knocked on the door. They kind of had a small conversation at the door, which led to Tashiba entering the house. They walked up the stairs together, kind of having a conversation. She advised that Tashiba was trying to get Yana to take her home. When she initially refused, Tashiba went into a bedroom, into Yana's bedroom, knocked off some perfume off of a dresser. At one point in time, she agreed to take her home, but just to get her out of the house, she didn't really plan on taking her home. She got to her car, locked the door, and then at that point, she says Tashiba made some kind of motion, like she pulled something from her waistband and pretended to stab a tire. In order to keep her car from getting damaged, she backed up the car and actually backed into another car that was parked.
And during the course of all of this was this back and forth about being taken home. Did you learn of any threats or anything being made to?
Yes, she initially, that was all she told me that had occurred. She was able to get in touch with the homeowner. It was like a pad split boarding room house. Was able to get in touch with the homeowner and was able to get video footage. There's a camera in the upstairs hallway, and in the hallway camera footage, you can clearly see who Yana was advising was Tashiba. Kind of grabbed the back of her head and shoved down and shove a little bit. And then at one point even said, "Come take me home before I punch you in the face."
After you say you saw this on footage.
Yes.
After observing this on I guess camera footage within the residence, what'd you do next?
Tashiba was no longer on scene, so we went to her last known residence that Yana knew of. At the house, we made contact with Taylor's mom, with Tashiba's mom, who said she wasn't there. So at that point, we just obtained warrants.
Okay. And what warrants did you pursue?
Simple battery and terroristic threats.
Okay. No additional questions at this time.
All righty. Go ahead, Attorney Evans.
Good morning, Officer Norris. I just have a few questions.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ask Ms. Burton why Ms. Taylor was initially at the home?
From what I can remember, she, like I said, her story was kind of changing up a little bit. At one point in time, she mentioned something about Miss Taylor and her being like friends, not friends, former, I guess, girlfriends or something. I'm not sure. Her story kept changing up a lot, which is why basically everything we went for was just off of what we saw on camera.
So based off of that, she could have told Ms. Taylor to come to the home.
I don't recall, but that's possible.
Did you ask why Ms. Burton opened the door initially, if she may have felt that she was threatened or scared of Ms. Taylor?
I believe we did, but I don't recall that answer. At that time, Officer Duncan was talking to her and trying to get more information.
Were you all able to go up to the room where Ms. Burston, said that she knocked over the perfume? Were you able to view the perfume knocked over on the floor?
I never went into the house, but in the video you can see her go into the bedroom and you hear a loud crashing noise.
Okay. One other question about the footage that you have. Were you able to view prior to Ms. Taylor saying that she needed her to take her home? Were you able to see what led up to that at all?
The video was based on motion, so it kind of kept skipping through some points, so I couldn't see all of what was occurring.
But you were able to hear just that.
You were able to clearly see that because it was right in front of the camera when it occurred.
Okay, so you saw it, you didn't hear her say the words, "Take me home before I punch you."
Oh, you clearly heard, "Come take me home before I punch you in the face."
Okay, but you didn't hear anything before that, right?
Just back and forth between the two of them.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any redirect?
No, ma'am.
All right, closing arguments, solicitor Brooks.
The state submit on that, sure.
All righty, Attorney Evans.
Defense submits on the testimony as well.
All righty, based upon the evidence presented, I do find there is sufficient probable cause to bind both cases over to the state court of Clayton County. That's the order of the court.
Thank you. I think it's Officer Norris, excuse me.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Have a good day.
Have a good one.
Officer Germain. Officer Germain.
Yes, sir.
All right. If the court is inclined, Shaki Tripp.
Mm-hmm. Deputy, if you can get Shaki Tripp, please.
Did you advise Tripp, Your Honor?
I'm sorry?
Did you say for, what was the
Yeah,
name
Mr.
that?
Shaki Tripp.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Tripp, you're on.
Ready? All right, now calling the matter of State of Georgia versus Shaki Tripp, warrant number 2024 WA04242, criminal trespass. That's the only charge, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All righty. Solicitor Brooks, your witness.
Officer Jermaine, if you would, raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in the matter now pending before the court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth, so help you God?
I do, sir.
All right, tell us what's your name and employment.
Officer Pierre Germain, employed by Atlanta Police Department.
What division or unit do you work with in APD?
CSD, Customer Service Division. Currently assigned at Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta Airport.
Okay. On May 25th of 2024, were you assigned in the same capacity at the APD?
That's correct, sir.
And specifically, were you working in the area of the Atlanta Airport atrium?
Domestic atrium, yes, sir.
6234 Spine Road, the atrium of the airport, is that located here in Clayton County?
That's correct, yes, sir.
On that day, did you encounter an individual that you were able to identify named Shaki Tripp?
That's correct, sir.
How did you come to encounter Mr. Tripp?
I had a loud commotion on the third floor of the atrium. At that time, I was patrolling the area. So I walked toward the commotion and then I observed the gentleman and I approached him, and from previous history, I knew he got a criminal trespass warning that he has received not to be on the airport property before. So I escorted him to the precinct and I confirmed from our file, yes, he did have a criminal trespass warning. And then he was charged accordingly. I have to add that during our encounter, he was kind of belligerent and tried to spit in my face, but he was not successful doing it.
Okay. Now, the initial commotion that you heard, what was that commotion coming from Mr. Tripp?
That's correct. That's correct.
Was he encountering passengers or employees of the airport?
An employee of the airport, employee of Home Atlanta, employee of the airport. But
Now,
at the time, he was walking away though from that employee.
Well, what is Hope Atlanta?
Home Atlanta is kind of organization to help stranded passengers on the airport property.
Okay, and so Hope Atlanta was trying to offer assistance?
Yes. And then for some reason he was cursing and yelling at the employee. But by the time I visually saw him, he was walking away from that employee. So I cannot testify he was aggressive toward the employee.
Okay. Okay. All right. No additional questions at this time.
Good morning, officer. I just have one question. During the arrest, did you believe that Mr. Tripp understood what he was being arrested for, or that he may be suffering from some type of mental illness?
Mental illness? No. Of course, I'm not an expert, in that field. I believe he understood. I talked to him, and before putting handcuff on him, of course, I remind him that you're not supposed to be on the property. And then, yeah, it's my belief that he understood, yes.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, none from state, Your Honor.
Mhm. Closing arguments.
State to submit on the evidence, Your Honor.
Ms. Evans?
And submits on the testimony.
All right, based upon the evidence presented, I do find that there is sufficient probable cause for binding this case over to the state court of Clayton County. That's the order of the court.
Thank you.
Mhm.
May I be excused, Your Honor?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, who can we do next?
Officer Cornell. Officer Cornell.
I'm here, Your Honor.
Kevin Warren is the defendant, Your Honor. Kevin Warren
Mhm.
or Kelvin Warren.
All right. So can we get Mr. Kevin Warren? And that's, he only has that charge of unlawful 911 conduct.
That's my understanding, Your Honor.
Okay. Mhm.
Mr. Warren is present.
Now calling the matter of State of Georgia versus Kevin Warren, charged in warrant number 2024 WA 77593, representing the state of Solicitor Brooks, representing the defendant is Attorney Evans, your witness, Attorney Brooks.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer Cornell, if you would, raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm testimony about giving the matter not been before the court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Tell us what's your name and employment.
Officer Cornell with the Clayton County Police Department.
On May 27, 2024, were you employed in the same capacity?
I was, yes, sir.
Are you assigned to the Uniform Patrol?
I am, yes, sir.
On that day, do you recall responding to a location 165 West Windmere Way, Jonesboro, Georgia?
I do, yes, sir.
Is that located here in Clayton County?
It is.
How many times did you arrive to that location?
On three separate occasions.
Were those three separate occasions based on a 911 call?
They were, yes, sir.
Recount for the court how you end up encountering a Kevin or Kelvin Warren, and what charges did you pursue as related to that encounter?
On the first 911 call we received, we arrived at the residence and spoke with Mr. Warren. He informed us that of a civil issue that he had with another person that was at the residence in regards to a $40 loan that he had given. We informed him that he would have to take that up in a small claims court. And once we provided him with that information, we left the scene. Shortly after we left the scene, he gave us a call back the second time and alleged that there was threats made towards him. When we arrived on the scene the second time, we spoke with witnesses that were at the scene that were able to inform us that the allegations that he was making were false. So we informed him that him calling and making false claims to the 911 dispatch would a second time would result in him being charged. Shortly after we left the second time, we received a call back a third time again. So on the third time when we arrived, we informed Mr. Warren that he was being arrested and taken into custody, and we proceeded in doing so.
What was the basis for the third call?
He stated that there was a baby in trouble inside the home.
And were you able to locate a child or a baby or?
No, sir.
No? All right. No additional questions at this time, ma'am.
All right, Attorney Evans.
Good morning, Officer Cornell. I just have a question. During that second encounter, when you spoke to the neighbors, did they indicate that he may be suffering from some type of mental illness, or has he done this before?
No, ma'am, they did not.
And when he was arrested, did you all ask him, or did you believe that he may be suffering from some type of mental illness?
No, ma'am. He appeared to be intoxicated when we were speaking with him.
Okay, no further questions. Thank you.
So,
Right. Any redirect?
None from state, Your Honor.
All right, closing arguments. Solicitor
State to
Brooks.
submit I'm sorry, Your Honor. State to submit on the evidence.
Okay. Attorney Evans.
Defense submits on the testimony.
All right, this charge will be transferred to the State Court of Clayton County. That's the order of the court.
Okay.
Stand by. But you can go ahead and tell me who we're gonna do next.
I believe it's Webb, Leah Webb, Officer Garcia. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Next is Leah Webb.
All right, Deputy, if you could get Leah Webb.
No problem, Your Honor.
Ms. Webb is present. Stand straight.
All righty. This is the preliminary hearing for Leah Webb. Charge and warrant numbers 2024 WA 77610. That's public indecency. 2024 WA 77611. Public drunk. 2024 WA 77612. Simple battery. And 2024 WA 77613. Obstruction. 2024 WA 77614. Simple assault. Representing the state is Solicitor Brooks. Representing the defendant is Ms. Attorney Lane, your witness, Brooks.
Thank you. Officer Garcia, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm testimony about to give in the matter not pending before the court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Tell us what's your name and employment.
I'm Officer Garcia, Clayton County Police Department.
May 27th of this year, 2024, were you employed in the same capacity?
Yes.
Now, on that day, were you assigned to uniform patrol?
Correct.
And did you respond to a 7264 Terra Boulevard Chevron gas station regarding public indecency?
Yes.
When you arrived on scene, what did you observe, and what was your course of conduct upon arriving?
Once we arrived, I noticed that there was a female standing over Ms. Webb trying to put a shirt back on. When we received the call, it was saying that there was a white female with no shirt on laying on the parking lot of the Chevron. When we tried to make contact with Ms. Webb, she was just mumbling. She wasn't responding to anything. We requested EMS to come check her out. She would only mumble to leave her alone. At that point, you can smell the alcohol coming from her breath. So once she wouldn't respond to anything, EMS decided to transport her to make sure she was okay. At that time, that's when she started hitting EMS and then tried to bite them.
And the call came from a patron at the store, or the store owner?
It was just it wasn't from the store owner. It was just a regular citizen.
Okay. Were EMS able to transport her to Southern Regional?
No, because at that point, once she started biting, trying to bite EMS, I placed her in custody, and that's what she came to, so to say.
Okay. Okay. No additional questions at this time.
Ready, Cross?
Good morning, officer. So you said that she was laying in the public parking lot. Where exactly? In view of everyone, or where exactly was she?
She was in the side of the store next to Battle Creek Road and Terra Boulevard.
So she was on the side. Was she in view, plain view of everyone?
Correct.
Yes. And you said that, well, I'm going to ask if there's video.
Not of my knowledge.
And she did or did not have a shirt on? When
The caller or witness who was standing above her was putting her shirt back on. While we were on scene, she lifted her shirt multiple times, trying to take it off.
And what did you view what did you see when she would lift her shirt?
She was not wearing a bra. Her shirt was exposed. She lifted her shirt.
Okay, no further questions. Thank you.
All right, any redirect?
None from state, Your Honor.
All righty. Closing arguments?
State submit on that, Your Honor.
All righty, Ms. Evans?
Defense submits as well.
All right, each one of these charges will be bound over to the State Court of Clayton County. That's the order of the court.
Is Officer Garcia excused, Your Honor?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks, Officer Cornell also asked if he could be excused. I think we were done with him.
Yes. Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Officer Cornell.
What can we do next?
Officer Marley, can you hear me? Officer Marley?
Yes, sir.
All right, that will be Kimberly Wingfield, Your Honor.
All right, bringing her right up.
Good morning, Judge. May I just intervene and ask a quick question, please?
Go ahead.
This is Attorney Edie. I wanted to make sure I was in the right calendar. I believe I just have a person, Mia Brown, who was supposed to be for first appearance, and I think I might be in the wrong Zoom.
Yes, this is prelims.
All right, so this is the Zoom that I'm sorry.
That's okay.
This makes present, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right, now calling the matter of State of Georgia versus Kimberly Wingfield, warrant number 2024 WA 77737. She's charged with battery. Solicitor Brooks, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer Marley, if you will, raise your right hand. You swear firm testimony about to give in the matter now pending before the court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth, so help you God.
I do.
All right, tell us what's your name and employment.
I'm Officer Marley with the Clayton County Police Department.
And on May the 29th of 2024, were you employed in the same capacity?
Yes, sir.
On that day, did you and another officer respond to a domestic disturbance call at 7438 Fielder Road?
Yes, sir. It was my FTO at the time, FTO Thomas.
Okay, and was that location here in Clayton County?
Yes, sir.
When you arrived on scene, recount for the court the course of your investigation revealed.
So we were dispatched to domestic disturbance outside of the residence of 7348 Fielder Road. When we arrived on scene, Miss Kimberly was already detained by the cage unit. And so on our arrival, we did speak with one of the witnesses that called the police, Miss Shauna Barber. She advised that she witnessed Kimberly and Amber, which is her girlfriend. They were in a physical altercation outside of the residence, maybe 40 feet south of their residence. She said they were both fighting outside, and Kimberly seemed to be the most predominant aggressor in the situation. She said it looked as though Amber did not want to fight her. And so we did talk to Amber. She said they were in a physical altercation. She did not want to explain why. And I did observe visible injury to Amber's lip.
And what did you observe of Amber's lip?
She had a red cut on her lip, and she also had a red mark on her chin.
Okay. And during the course of your investigation, did you learn that the redness and the marks on her lip was the result of the altercation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to speak to Ms. Wingfield?
Yes. She advised me that there was no physical altercation. Several times she kept saying she didn't hit her, she didn't hit her. But I advised her that we had a witness that called 911. A witness. She worked for DeKalb County. She's an investigator, so she's a notable witness in the situation, and she's the one that called 911.
All right. No additional questions at this time.
All right, Attorney Evans.
Good morning. Officer, did
Hey,
you see any injuries to Ms. Wingfield?
no, ma'am.
Did the investigator say that she saw Wingfield hit Amber first, or that Amber hit at all?
I don't recall that. All I recall is that she said she did witness the altercation between them outside the residence, and she did advise that Kimberly seemed as though she was the more predominant one in the in the altercation, and it looked as though Amber did not want to continue the altercation.
Okay, so she didn't see who hit who first. She just seen from what she seen was that Winfield was the more aggressor, correct?
Correct.
She didn't see who hit who first.
Correct.
Thank you. No, nothing further.
All right. Closing arguments. Solicitor Brooks.
None from the state, Your Honor.
Ms. Evans.
None from defense as well.
All right. The battery charge will be bound over to the state court of Clayton County. That's the order of the court.
Thank you.
Anybody else we're ready on?
Yes, ma'am. Kyra or Kyra Brooks. Detective Reynolds, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, we're ready now.
All right, Deputy, if you could get Kyra Brooks.
Am I excused, Your Honor?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, now calling the matter of State of Georgia versus Kyra Brooks. Charged in warrant number 2023 CW 55247. That's improper lane change. 2023 CW 55248, hit and run. 2023 CW 55249, unlicensed resident, or she's a resident for more than 30 days. Representing the state is Solicitor Brooks. Representing defendant is Attorney Lane. Your witness, Solicitor Brooks.
Thank you. Detective Reynolds, if you will, raise your right hand. You swear firm testimony about giving the matter not pending before the court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you. Please tell us what's your name and employment.
Detective Reynolds with the Clayton County Police Department.
And back in October 14th of 2023, were you with the Clayton County Police Department?
Yes.
How were you serving the Clayton County Police Department at that time?
I was a patrol officer.
Now, do you recall responding to an incident in which you learned that Kyra or Kyra Brooks was involved?
Yes.
Recount for the court how you became involved and what the course of your investigation led to.
On October 14th of last year, I responded to a hit and run call, a vehicle accident on Upper Riverdale. When I got there, I made contact with the victim, Ariel Mathis. She told me that she was hit by a vehicle, a Nissan Kicks, and that the driver of that vehicle fled. I spoke to the passenger of the at-fault vehicle. The passenger's last name was Holmes. She advised that the driver of the vehicle that fled was Kyra Brooks, her girlfriend.
When you said the driver fled, the driver
Yes.
fled on foot?
On foot, yes.
Oh, so the car was still located at the location? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The
Speaking with the passenger, what'd you learn?
the passenger said that the driver was her girlfriend, Kyra Brooks. She was able to give me her name and date of birth. Shortly after that, the owner of the at-fault vehicle showed up on scene. The owner was Kyra Brooks' mom. The mother advised that Kyra was the one that was driving and that the reason why she fled is because she was unlicensed.
And were you able to confirm Miss Brooks's license status?
Yes, she was unlicensed.
Now, Miss Brooks not being on scene, were you able to ultimately speak to Miss Brooks or locate her after?
No, I was not. Her mother advised that she believes she ran to the apartment complex where they lived, which was directly across the street. I drove in the area, but I didn't find her, so I just went and took out warrants on her.
Aside from the hit and run, were you able to determine what led to the initial collision?
She drove across several lanes into the gas station.
Okay. And was that an improper lane change?
Yes.
No additional questions at this time.
Cross?
Good morning, officer.
Good morning.
You actually, you said the vehicle never went anywhere. It stopped and remained on the scene. Is that correct?
From what I recall, yes.
And the passenger remained on the scene and was cooperative with you?
Yes.
Okay. And Miss Brooks, you said she lived across the street from the accident location?
According to her mother, yes.
Okay. And the mother, I guess, did the mother ever tell you how she learned of the accident?
Yes, the girlfriend texted her or called her and told her.
Okay. And the mother's the owner of the vehicle?
Correct.
And she is the mother of Kyra Brooks, who's 22 years old, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Or at least was 22 years old at the time of the accident. And they were, everyone was fully cooperative with you during your investigation?
From what I recall, yes.
Thank you, officer. I don't have any further questions.
All right. Attorney Brooks, any redirect?
Yes, very briefly. Officer, you advised that Miss Brooks was unlicensed. Is that correct?
Yes.
How long has she been a resident that you could determine?
Over 30 days.
Okay. And do you know where she relocated from?
I don't.
All right. No additional questions.
All right. Closing arguments?
The state was presented on the evidence, Your Honor.
All right. Attorney Lane?
Just brief argument, Your Honor, as to the hit and run, we'd argue that the spirit of the statute is just to ensure that folks who are involved in an accident aren't left without knowing the identity of everybody involved and able to get things worked out in the courts afterhand. What we have here is that the owner of the vehicle itself, the passenger, and the owner of the vehicle all were present at the scene, and the residents where my client went across the street to go to this was just basically everyone on the extended scene. There was no running, or there's no one that was left without being able to have any questions answered. That the police officer was able to fully investigate and interview not only the owner of the vehicle, the passenger of the vehicle, and get all the necessary information that they did. And the alleged victim here, this Ariel Mathis, has all the information that they need for the the fender bender. And I would just request just based on that, as far as the hit and run, that any probable cause finding, that this be you take into consideration her age as well, that charge just be dismissed, just based, again, like I said, that since the spirit of the statute has not been violated.
All right, Attorney Brooks. Oh, you submitted?
I did, Your Honor, but if the state is allowed to rebut, I would offer a rebuttal. The state would offer that the spirit of the law, as relates to hit and run, is absolutely frustrated by the driver being involved in an accident or the operator of a motor vehicle being involved in an accident, not remaining on scene to provide additional information to the officer or emergency personnel as related to the accident. Though the owner of the vehicle arrived, the owner was not the one involved in the collision and had no factual information to offer to the officer as relates to how the accident came about. And so we will offer that each charge, improper lane change, hit and run, and unlicensed residence for more than 30 days is valid. We ask it to be valid on the state court.
All righty. Based upon the evidence presented, I do find that there's sufficient probable cause to bind all three cases over to the state court, Clayton County. That's the order of the court.
Okay.
May I be excused, Judge?
Yes, thank you. All right, hold on one second. You can give me, I need to step away for 1 minute, but Solicitor Brooks, go ahead and see if you can get someone ready for me.
Yeah, and I believe that completes the calendar. One officer did not appear. I don't know if council has a motion, but state has no witness to attest. That is Bianca Smith. The witness is Officer Quintez Williams. One now she has not appeared.
Kyra Smith, Kyra Brooks was binded over state court.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'll also do a Leah Webb. I know that she's being eval, so I think we're still on YouTube, Your Honor.